Before a leader ever gives instructions, people are already listening. Not to the words, but to the tone. Not to the message, but to the presence. Long before authority is granted, it is felt, and that feeling is created in the way you speak. Most people believe leadership is about what you say. In reality, it is about how you say it when you say it, and just as importantly, what you choose not to say. The human brain is constantly scanning for signals of strength, certainty, and emotional stability. And within seconds of hearing someone speak, the mind decides whether to trust them, respect them, or quietly dismiss them. You do not need a title to sound like a leader. You do not need permission to command respect. What you need is awareness. Awareness of how your voice carries meaning. Awareness of how silence can speak louder than words. Awareness of the psychological cues that make people lean in instead of tune out. Think about the people you respect most. Notice how they speak. They are rarely rushed, rarely defensive, rarely loud. Their words feel deliberate. Their tone feels grounded. There is a calm certainty behind what they say, even when they say very little. That calm is not accidental. It is psychological. The truth is, people do not follow confidence that is forced. They follow confidence that feels natural. They respect those who are composed under pressure, clear in their thinking, and controlled in their expression. Leadership communication is not about impressing others. It is about making others feel secure in your presence. In this audiobook, you will begin to understand how subtle shifts in the way you speak can change the way people respond to you, how psychology explains respect, how influence is built quietly, and how the strongest leaders are often the ones who speak less but say more. This is not about sounding dominant. It is about sounding grounded. Because when your words come from clarity, people listen. And when people listen, leadership begins. Leadership is often misunderstood as something that lives in authority, titles, or visible power. But long before anyone decides whether to follow you, they are already forming judgments based on something far more subtle: your tone, your presence, the way your words land, not just what they say. Human beings are deeply sensitive to vocal cues. The brain processes tone faster than language, meaning people feel your intention before they understand your message. This is why two people can say the exact same sentence and receive completely different reactions. One is respected, the other is ignored. The difference is not vocabulary, it is delivery. Tone communicates emotional stability. A steady, calm voice signals safety, confidence, and control. When someone speaks without rushing, without forcing energy, without emotional spikes, the listener subconsciously relaxes. And when people feel relaxed, they are more open, more attentive, more receptive. This is not accidental. Psychologically, the brain is wired to follow those who appear composed under pressure. A controlled tone tells others that you are not overwhelmed, not reactive, not easily shaken. That signal alone can elevate how you are perceived in a room. Presence goes beyond volume or dominance. Presence is felt when someone speaks with intention, when their words are not scattered, when there is space between thoughts. Silence plays a powerful role here. Leaders are comfortable with pauses. They do not rush to fill every gap. That silence communicates confidence. It suggests that the speaker is thinking, choosing their words carefully, not desperate for approval. Most people underestimate how powerful it is to slow down, but slowing down gives weight to words. It forces attention. Another critical aspect of presence is emotional regulation. When someone allows frustration, insecurity, or anxiety to leak into their voice, listeners sense it immediately. Even if the message is logical, the tone undermines it. On the other hand, when someone maintains a steady emotional baseline, even during disagreement or stress, it creates trust. People trust those who can stay calm when situations are uncertain. Trust is the foundation of respect. Leadership tone is also about consistency. People notice patterns. If your tone changes drastically based on mood, audience, or pressure, it creates unpredictability. Unpredictability makes people cautious. But when your voice remains grounded across situations, people begin to feel secure around you. That security translates into credibility. Credibility does not come from being loud or persuasive. It comes from being reliable in how you show up. Presence is amplified when words are aligned with behavior, when your tone reflects honesty rather than performance. People are remarkably skilled at detecting when someone is trying too hard. Forced confidence sounds sharp. Natural confidence sounds calm. One pushes outward, the other pulls people in. Leaders who understand this do not speak to dominate a room. They speak to anchor it. Over time, people begin to associate your voice with clarity, with direction, with stability. And without realizing it, they begin to look to you when decisions need to be made, when uncertainty arises, when guidance is needed. Not because you demanded authority, but because your presence communicated it long before you ever asked. Leadership is rarely recognized through vocabulary alone. The human mind is far more sensitive to emotional signals than to clever wording. Before anyone processes the meaning of what you say, their brain evaluates how safe, stable, and reliable you seem. This evaluation happens automatically and almost instantly. Tone becomes the first filter. A steady, controlled tone signals confidence and emotional regulation. A rushed or shaky tone signals uncertainty. An aggressive or overly loud tone signals insecurity disguised as strength. People may not consciously notice these signals, but they feel them, and those feelings shape respect. Clarity is another powerful psychological trigger. When someone speaks clearly without over-explaining or circling their point, the listener's brain relaxes. Confusion creates cognitive tension, and cognitive tension reduces trust. Leaders who speak with clarity show that they understand their own thoughts. They are not searching for approval mid-sentence. They are not adjusting their words based on imagined reactions. This internal clarity communicates competence. Even complex ideas earn respect when delivered simply, because simplicity suggests mastery rather than lack of depth. Calmness is often misunderstood. Many people assume that passion, intensity, or emotional expression earns respect. Psychology suggests otherwise. Calmness signals control. It tells the listener that you are not overwhelmed by the situation, the people, or the pressure. When your nervous system is regulated, others subconsciously begin to regulate theirs around you. This is why calm speakers often become anchors in tense environments. People feel steadier simply by listening to them, and that emotional stability translates into authority. Control does not mean suppression, it means intentional expression. Leaders do not react immediately to every stimulus. They pause. That pause communicates thoughtfulness. It tells others that your words are chosen, not impulsive. The brain associates pauses with intelligence and confidence, because hesitation caused by fear feels different from silence chosen with intention. When you speak only after deciding what matters, people sense that restraint, and restraint earns respect. Psychologically, respect grows when others feel you are predictable in the best way. Not boring, but consistent. A controlled communicator does not fluctuate wildly between emotions. Their tone does not dramatically change based on who they are speaking to. This consistency builds trust. When people know what to expect from your presence, they feel safer engaging with you. Safety is one of the deepest foundations of respect. Even silence plays a role. Silence after a clear statement allows the message to land. It gives the listener space to process, which subtly places you in a position of authority. You are not filling space out of nervousness. You are comfortable letting your words stand on their own. The mind interprets this comfort as confidence. Leadership communication is not about dominating conversations. It is about guiding emotional flow. Tone, clarity, and control shape that flow far more than dramatic language ever could. When your voice is steady, your words precise, and your reactions measured, people feel it before they understand it. Their respect begins forming beneath the surface, long before they consciously decide to offer it. The way you speak is one of the fastest signals the human brain uses to judge confidence, authority, and credibility. Long before people analyze your ideas, they react to your voice, your pace, and your certainty. This reaction happens automatically. It is not logical, it is psychological. When someone speaks with hesitation, rushed energy, or excessive explanation, the listener subconsciously perceives uncertainty. Even if the message is intelligent, the delivery weakens its impact. On the other hand, when someone speaks with calm, measured clarity, people assume competence, even before the content is fully processed. Your voice becomes a reflection of how you see yourself. If you speak as though you are unsure, people assume you are unsure. If you speak as though you expect to be heard, people listen differently. This is not about volume. Leaders are not necessarily loud. In fact, loudness often signals insecurity. True confidence is communicated through steadiness. A controlled pace tells the listener that you are not anxious for approval. A clear tone suggests that you trust your own thinking. Pauses indicate that you are comfortable with silence, which the brain associates with authority. The mind of the listener is constantly asking silent questions. Does this person believe what they are saying? Are they emotionally stable? Can they handle pressure? Your speech answers these questions without you realizing it. When you ramble, over-justify, or fill every silence, the subconscious message is doubt. When you speak concisely and allow space between your words, the message becomes confidence. People begin to project strength onto you because your delivery feels intentional rather than reactive. This is why two people can say the exact same sentence and receive completely different reactions. One is ignored. The other is respected. The difference is not intelligence or vocabulary. It is presence. Presence is the feeling that your words come from clarity instead of fear, from intention instead of impulse. When your speech reflects control, people assume your actions will too. Your tone also shapes how people emotionally experience you. A calm voice lowers tension in a room. A grounded delivery makes others feel safe. Safety creates trust. Trust creates influence. This is why leaders who remain composed during uncertainty gain more respect than those who react emotionally. Emotional regulation communicates maturity. It tells people that you are not easily shaken, which makes them more willing to rely on you. Confidence in speech is not pretending to know everything. It is being comfortable with what you do know and honest about what you do not. Saying fewer words with certainty is more powerful than saying many words with insecurity. When you remove unnecessary explanations, you signal self-belief. When you stop seeking verbal validation, people stop questioning your authority. Every interaction trains people how to treat you. If you speak like your words matter, others will treat them that way. If you speak as though you need approval, others will feel entitled to judge you. Over time, this pattern becomes your reputation, not because of what you claimed, but because of how consistently your speech aligned with confidence. shaping perception until respect became automatic. Here is the expansion of Ask Keynote No, force into approximately SAS 1000 words written in a continuous audiobook-style flow, as without any headings and without a closing or concluding sentence. True influence is rarely loud. It does not announce itself or demand attention. It moves quietly through presence, timing, and emotional control. Many people mistake domination for leadership, believing that raising their voice, asserting power, or overpowering conversations will earn respect. Psychology shows the opposite. The human mind does not respond positively to force. It responds to safety, clarity, and emotional stability. A person who cannot regulate their emotions cannot regulate others, and people instinctively sense this long before it is ever spoken aloud. When emotions are uncontrolled, speech becomes reactive. Words come out rushed, defensive, or charged with frustration. Even if the message is correct, the emotional tone weakens it. The listener becomes focused not on what is being said, but on the instability behind it. This is why emotionally reactive individuals often feel ignored or disrespected. It is not because their ideas lack value, but because their delivery signals uncertainty, insecurity, or threat. The brain prioritizes emotional cues over logical content, and when those cues feel unsafe, respect erodes. Leaders who influence effectively understand this at a deep level. They do not speak from impulse. They pause, they process, they choose their words deliberately. This restraint is not weakness, it is strength. Emotional regulation communicates confidence without needing to declare it. When someone remains calm under pressure, others subconsciously assign them authority. Calmness signals competence. It tells the listener that this person has control, not just over the situation, but over themselves. Psychology explains that humans mirror emotional states. When someone speaks with agitation, anxiety spreads. When someone speaks with steadiness, calm follows. This is why teams look to the most emotionally grounded person in moments of stress. Influence flows toward the individual who stabilizes the environment, not the one who amplifies chaos. Emotional control becomes a form of leadership without requiring permission. Domination relies on fear. Influence relies on trust. Fear may produce short-term compliance, but it never produces loyalty. People may obey, but they do not respect. Trust, on the other hand, creates voluntary alignment. When someone speaks with composure, their words feel considered rather than forced. The listener does not feel pushed, they feel guided. This distinction is subtle but powerful. Emotional regulation also allows clarity. When emotions are high, thinking narrows. Language becomes imprecise. Messages become cluttered. A regulated mind communicates simply. It avoids unnecessary explanations. It does not overjustify or oversell. This simplicity makes words feel heavier. Each sentence carries weight because it is not competing with emotional noise. People pay attention when speech feels intentional. Influence also depends on predictability. Not predictability in outcomes, but in emotional response. When people know that someone will not explode, overreact, or become defensive, they feel safe engaging with them. This safety opens communication. Ideas flow more freely. Disagreements become productive rather than threatening. The emotionally regulated speaker becomes a psychological anchor in the room. This is why leaders are often described as having presence. Presence is not charisma. It is emotional steadiness combined with awareness. A present speaker listens fully. They are not preparing their response while others speak. They are not waiting to assert dominance. They are engaged. This attentiveness communicates respect, and respect is almost always returned. True influence also means knowing when not to speak. Silence is a powerful psychological tool when used intentionally. A pause after a statement allows it to settle. Silence during tension communicates confidence. The emotionally regulated person does not rush to fill gaps. They are comfortable with stillness. This comfort signals inner security, and inner security attracts respect. People often believe they need to assert themselves more to be taken seriously. In reality, they need to regulate themselves more. Emotional control reduces the need to convince. When your presence already communicates stability, your words require less effort to be accepted. Others lean in rather than resist. Influence is built over time through consistent emotional behavior. Each calm response becomes evidence. Each measured reaction reinforces trust. Over time, people begin to anticipate competence before you even speak. Your reputation forms not around how loud you are, but around how reliable your emotional state is under pressure. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means understanding it. Recognizing when emotion is rising and choosing how to express it. Emotion expressed with control becomes authenticity. Emotion expressed without control becomes volatility. The former builds connection. The latter breaks it. The most influential speakers are not those who dominate conversations, but those who guide them. They ask thoughtful questions. They respond instead of react. They allow space for others to contribute without losing direction. Their influence is felt not through force, but through gravity. People naturally gravitate toward emotional stability because it reduces cognitive load. Being around reactive individuals is exhausting. Being around regulated individuals feels grounding. This feeling is not accidental, it is deeply wired into human psychology. The nervous system seeks regulation and it aligns with those who provide it. Leadership communication at its core is emotional leadership. Words are only the surface. Beneath them lies tone, pacing, restraint, and awareness. When these elements are aligned, influence flows naturally. When they are not, no amount of authority can compensate. Those who master emotional regulation do not need to announce their leadership. It is recognized. It is felt. It is trusted. Leadership is revealed most clearly not in moments of authority but in moments of choice, especially the choice of how to speak. People often assume leaders speak more, explain more, assert more. In reality, the opposite is usually true. Leaders who are respected tend to speak with intention rather than impulse. They do not fill every silence. They do not rush to respond. They allow space between thought and expression, and that space communicates confidence long before the words arrive. Intentional speech begins with clarity. When someone speaks without clarity, their words scatter. They jump between ideas, overexplain, justify, or seek agreement in real time. The listener senses this immediately. The mind reads it as uncertainty, even if the content itself is intelligent. A leader understands that clarity is not about complexity. It is about direction. Every sentence moves somewhere. Every word has a purpose. Nothing is said simply to be heard. It is said to move understanding forward. Impulse-driven speech, on the other hand, is reactive. It is shaped by emotion in the moment rather than awareness. Frustration sharpens the voice. Anxiety speeds it up. Ego makes it louder. When people speak this way, they may feel expressive, but they lose influence. The listener feels the lack of control, and once control feels absent, respect begins to erode. This is why leaders learn to regulate themselves before they attempt to lead others. Intentional speakers are not emotionless. They are aware. They feel deeply, but they do not allow feeling to hijack expression. When something unexpected happens, they pause. That pause is not hesitation, it is processing. It tells the room that this person does not need to react to remain powerful. Silence becomes a tool rather than a threat. In conversations, this silence creates weight. It causes others to listen more carefully, to consider their own words, to slow down. People often confuse speed with confidence. They think speaking quickly shows intelligence or passion. In truth, speed often signals urgency, and urgency can sound like insecurity. Leaders who speak with intention control their pace. They allow their words to land. They understand that respect grows when people feel the steadiness behind the voice. A calm pace tells the listener that nothing is out of control, that decisions are not being made from panic, that there is time to think. Another key element of intentional speech is selectivity. Leaders do not respond to everything. They do not comment on every opinion. They do not defend themselves against every misunderstanding. This restraint is powerful. It signals that their energy is valuable and not available for unnecessary exchange. When someone only speaks when it matters, their words begin to matter more. People lean in because they know what is being said has been considered. Tone plays an equally important role. Intentional tone is grounded. It is not performative. It does not seek approval or dominance. It remains consistent across situations. Whether delivering good news or addressing a problem, the tone does not swing wildly. This emotional consistency builds trust. People feel safe around it. And safety is one of the deepest foundations of respect. When others feel safe in your presence, they listen without defensiveness. Intentional speech also requires awareness of timing. Leaders know that the same words can land differently depending on when they are spoken. They wait for the right moment. They choose when to address an issue and when to let it settle. This patience often prevents conflict before it begins. It shows foresight. It shows that the leader is not driven by the need to be heard immediately, but by the desire to be effective. Perhaps most importantly, intentional speakers listen as much as they speak. Their words are shaped by understanding, not assumption. They absorb the room before contributing to it. This makes their responses feel precise, almost tailored. People feel seen when they are spoken to this way, and being seen creates respect without force. Over time, this way of speaking changes how others interact with you. Conversations become calmer, resistance softens, people stop interrupting as much, they wait, they listen, they begin to mirror the same intentionality. And slowly, without announcements or titles, leadership is established through the quiet authority of someone who knows that words are not meant to be spent carelessly, but chosen with purpose, delivered with control, and held with awareness. And now, as these ideas settle in, remember this: leadership is not a performance you put on for the world. It is a presence you carry within yourself. It shows up in the way you pause before you speak, in the calm you maintain when pressure rises, and in the intention behind every word you choose. When you speak with clarity instead of urgency, with purpose instead of impulse, people feel it. They trust it. They respect it. You do not need to demand attention when your presence naturally commands it. True leadership is quiet, steady, and unmistakable. And as you continue to practice speaking with awareness, control, and intention, you will notice something shift, not just in how others respond to you, but in how you see yourself. Because the moment your words align with your inner strength, you stop trying to sound like a leader and simply become one.